for the wonderful week we've had and everything, so that was my first priority doing. Okay.
So your overall thoughts on that, Ellery?
Well, my overall thoughts is this. First of all, can I just mention Matt Parcell? The reason being, I know that he didn't play today, but I think that I had to have a conversation with him during the week, and obviously, and he was going to be left out of the side. And let me tell you, he's been so professional around the camp. He deserves great accolades in terms of huge mention. I've got enormous respect for him as a player. He's obviously playing brilliantly well at Hull KR and everything. But when I gave him the news that he wasn't playing, he didn't go to his room and sulk. And to me, that's important now. It shows the character and what a grown-up person he is. He took it with humanity, and he was brilliant in terms of speaking to the other number nines and helping them in particular things that we wanted to do on the footy paddock and everything. So I was really pleased with that. The attitude was fantastic. And before I go on to the game, let me tell you, as much as England deserve to win, no question about that, you can't escape from that point, because one, if you're penalised 15 times and then you only get 7 penalties to yourself, that is no blame to the referee in any slight shape or form. It's our fault. We had to address that, and it's one of the things I addressed on Tuesday in terms of that our discipline had to be good. In terms, if we were going to compete with England, our discipline had to be good. They were better than us in terms of their discipline, no question about that. We weren't clinical enough in terms of finishing off the opportunities that we had, and I listen, I love all the boys to bits and pieces, and as I said, the camp's been fantastic, but you have to transfer what you do in terms of the training paddock onto the field. We were clinical with no opposition against us, but the truth being is that we just fluffed our lines at the last bus stop, and the game could have been a lot closer. I'm not saying we would have won it, but we could have made the game a lot closer. We didn't, but I'm still proud of the guys and everything. And just from an England's point of view, I thought that they played well in large parts, and but as I said, we had our opportunities, but we didn't take them.
And just on Matt Parcell, how when you initially told him, was he gutted not to be playing? And
oh yeah, obviously he was, but the understanding from him was magnificent. And for me, I would give him the man of the match, honestly, even though he didn't play. How he carried himself, you know, because if you get such disappointing news, you're not going to be playing, and in the side, I mean, it was a huge game. He was looking forward to playing and everything, and obviously nobody knew what the side was going to be at that particular time during the week and everything. And he took it so well, and he said that I understand, and it was an unfortunate situation in the sense that obviously you had Darryl Clark and you had Cruz Leeming, and I felt that I had to give them the opportunity to be able to play in a World Cup. It's a four-way race between the four players, and with Michael McAlorum there as well, and Paul McShane. I thought that, you know, they deserve to go to World Cup. No slight on Matt whatsoever, but Matt understood that, and that made the job a lot easier for me. That he was able to accept it and understood it. That them two players, Darryl and Cruz, had a chance of towing for that place, lining up in the World Cup, and Matt didn't. Matt's not going to be involved in the World Cup at all, so he understood that. So don't get me wrong, it didn't make the job any easier, because it was difficult for me. And I'll be honest with you, it was painful for me. It hurt me, because I put myself in a player's position. Always, that's what I always do. It's like when I go on the footy paddock, when I play, I always remember what it was like going onto the footy paddock. That it is painful. If you're not involved, it's going to be painful. So all credit to him.
And just on yourself, have you enjoyed getting stuck into coaching again this week?
Oh, the coach has been no problem. Let me tell you, I think once you've coached, it's almost like riding a bike. Once you rode the bike and you understand the balance, it comes back. Just to me, it was natural, because I think because I've watched like nearly every Super League game. There's no difference to me not a coach for a small period of time to coaching this week at all. One, because the players are so professional as well, and it makes the job so much easier. They all understand the game is played by every single team in the Super League the same way in terms of the fashion, the shapes, what they make out the back. All the players are all the same. They're just called different names, and it's just making sure that everybody understands those names. So the playbook was given out to the players on the Tuesday when they all came into camp, and let me tell you, it's one of the best camps I've ever been in. The players, the banter with the players straight away, and the Islanders, and I like everybody to feel comfortable. They bring the music along, even to every single training session. No distraction. There's noise at a game. When you play a game for 80 minutes, there's noise, continuous noise. So I had no problem with it, and I have so much flexibility, understanding the cultures of the players coming into the side. That's what they like. They're comfortable with it, and it doesn't disturb anybody else. Let's roll with it. I have no problem whatsoever. And as I said, look, nobody likes losing, and it's disappointing to me that we lost. But the reality is, the better side won in terms of them being disciplined. We weren't disciplined enough in terms of giving 15 penalties away to their 7. So it's going to make the game extremely difficult to win from that point on.
Ellery, based on what you saw today, how much does England have to make up on the top 2 or 3 countries before October?
I think that probably the bonus they have is that they've got numerous amount of players to come back into sides, into their side, the England side, that are the NRL players. So the competition is going to be hard, and it should be. There's no question about it. There should be no easy slots for anybody. Even the most obvious players who are going to be in the side, it shouldn't be easy. I think that there's some areas that they have to work on, and I'm saying that from a losing point of view, but there is still some areas where they're vulnerable. Look, we had probably 3-4 chances of probably posting tries. We weren't clinical enough, and we didn't deserve to win. And I won't edge away from that at all. But I think you've got to be aware and not paper over the cracks. And I'm sure Sean won't do that. I love him to pieces. He's great, and I think he's got the players on side in terms of what they have to do to be able to win a World Cup and everything. But it's the competition as well with the players as well within the camp.
Do you want to say what areas they're vulnerable?
It's not for me. This is Sean's department, and it's not for me to point out the areas and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And because each coach is different, and I view and I see things probably to Sean, even though our ethos will be the same and our framework will be the same. There's particular things I would probably want in and put into the side what he may not.
How do you think the World Cup plays out? What do you think?
I think it's for me. It's quite obvious. I think it's going to be a wonderful World Cup in terms of having all the sides in and. But I think the obvious big 3 are obviously for me obviously going to be Australia, New Zealand, and England. And that's not in that order, but they're just going to be the 3 teams for me who are going to be competing for the World Cup. I think the other sides may give, a couple of the sides may give the 3 sides a run for the money, and there might be a couple of surprise results. But generally speaking, that's the format. What's going to end up being those 3 clubs, they'll be in the final.
And mate, if you've got this job next year, are there things that you'd like to see done differently or improved upon if this game's on again next year?
In terms of next year, I haven't even thought of that far ahead. To be honest, really, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I feel honoured and privileged that headquarters have come to me and asked me to do the job. And when you consider this, and I think it's important to consider this as well. that if you're bringing a side together and your last round, I think was it round 15 in the Super League, and we had a lot of turbulence in that round 15 in terms of players getting injured, players being suspended, and last minute trying to pull players in. And I think, look, there's no excuse for me. And once again, I'm going to put this really flat and solid. The better side won. But what I'm saying though is this, that it's very difficult then to pull players in when it's a free weekend and they've already booked holidays and they're off going to places, you know. And as brilliant as Reece Martin is, you know, he's probably best position and best suited position is in the back row, you know. And but we're left in that scenario. Look, he's done a stellar job and he's been fantastic. He's took the ball up hard, done some great defensive work for us and everything like that. But you know, you really need your best players in the best positions, what are suited for them.
Is Matt Pryor okay? Because obviously.
Yeah, we don't know the full extent of Matt Pryor, but in all honesty, he came off with quite a bad sternum injury, and one of the things I said to all the players when they came in on Tuesday and in our first classroom meeting, I understood what they've done prior to coming to this game. I know what they've gone through in terms of all the amount of games they've played, and also I know what's coming up afterwards. So I was quite conscious of the fact that I don't want to wreck Matt Pryor coming back onto the field when I know that he's had a terrible sternum injury, because I know myself personally, I know how hard they are to get rid of. So it would have been quite unfair of me to try and squeeze him back onto the footy paddock, you know. And you know, Matt Pryor was playing brilliant for us, to be honest. He was a stalwart for us in terms of before he came off in the game. I thought he handled his position well at lock, and he did everything that I'd asked of him. But I think that a player's welfare and health is more important than trying to win a footy game for me.
Anything else? Thank you, George. Thanks, mate.
All right.
Cheers,
All good. All right. No problem. Thanks, guys.
Ellery, can I see yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a few weeks time you'd be free to do the